Anybody need a racing slick?
I'm staying awake, waiting for your call. Nowhere to escape, in between these walls. Time is getting late, wondering where you are. Need to get it straight, cause I think I'm falling hard. I'm falling, so save me. Just save me, hear my alarm. It's calling, I'm waiting for you. Don't let me down, I'm waiting. Waiting for you, don't let me down.
Good morning, everybody. We're in Stanfield, Oregon. Picked up our load of onions yesterday. And we're grossing out at $79,980. She's a heavy one, at least in the general commodities market. And today I get to pull it up over Emigrant Hill. Part of the reason I stopped a little early yesterday, because it was 95 degrees outside, and I don't want to pull Emigrant Hill when it's 100 some odd degrees outside and I'm fully loaded. That's just asking for you to boil a radiator. Alright, Tweedledee, let's go.
Keep right on Stanfield Avenue, then turn right.
You're on a public road at this point. You can go over 2 miles an hour. Oh boy. Yeah, let's go. So, just got up Immigrant Hill here. I started hearing this noise coming from the trailer, and I got a feeling. Yep. That tire is no longer legal. I can go grab the tread depth gauge, but I can tell you right now, those 2 spots right there are an out of service. So, that tire uh-oh. Anybody need a racing slick? Oh, and it's hot. That was getting ready to blow. So, yeah. That's gonna be, 2 tires. This is how quickly tires can change after a pre-trip. something goes funky and it's just done. Well, time to make some phone calls. Well, since I'm waiting on roadside to come out, take care of a couple tires, figure I'd go back and start working on the pre-trip stuff here. And there's a whole bunch of really quick stuff that I can cover that I don't need to spend much time on. Your defroster and heater must be operational. Start the motor, make sure it's hot. Turn on your defroster, make sure it's blowing heat across the windshield. You must make sure that all vents are blowing hot. Turn it over to face. Make sure that all your face vents are blowing hot. Same with your feet. Pretty basic stuff. Same goes in the back. All of your heat must work. Drive shaft. I've already covered this. Nothing cracked, bent, broken, loose, missing. You want to make sure all your U-joints are in good condition. I've covered this in my general walk around. It's about making sure that everything's tight, everything's in good condition, and that you have no signs of a cracked U-joint, twisted drive shaft, any of that stuff. Engine, I've covered this many times. Check your fluids, make sure there's no leaks, check all your fluid levels. I've covered the fifth wheel. Frame and assembly, same thing, nothing cracked, bent, broken, missing. You've got to make sure that the frame is straight. You'll see some trucks running down the road where they're not level. Yeah, that's not right. That might be the frame, it might be the suspension. You'd have to get into that truck to figure out exactly what it is. But when you walk up to a truck, it should be sitting straight and level. Nothing cracked, bent, broken, twisted. Everything should be in good order. When you're inspecting the frame, the other thing you want to make sure of is that you don't have any holes drilled into the frame that are not factory. Also, there are regulations regarding welding on the frame. I'll make sure that I include all of the regulation numbers on that. Front axle, again, you're checking your springs, you're checking your U-bolts, make sure nothing's loose, cracked, bent, broken. I've said it numerous times, that mantra is going to come back and be drilled into you. Nothing cracked, bent, broken, missing, cut, bulging. Yeah. As far as the front axle is concerned, you're checking your steering linkage, you're checking your U-bolts, you're checking all the springs, making sure that none of the springs are cracked, that none of your U-bolts are cracked, that nothing's loose, that nothing shows signs of wobbling. That's what you're looking for. Fuel tanks cannot have any holes in them, cannot be leaking. They must be properly mounted and secure. The tank strap must have the factory pad on it. I'll show that. I've covered the horns. You must have at least one operational horn. I believe that was in my last video where I made mention that it's difficult to test in a travel center or a rest area without being rude. But you can test that when you're running down the road. You know, get out in the middle of nowhere, no one around you, pull the air horn cord. Yep, it works. Lights, I've already covered this. All your lights must be operational. Period, end of story. Doesn't matter whether you've got 10 lights on the trailer or 1,000. And that's not an exaggeration. There are plenty of guys who have upwards of 500 or 600 lights just on the trailer. All lights must be operational, period, in all of their functions. Turn, stop, marker lights, four-ways, it must all be operational. Mirrors, you cannot have any cracked mirrors. No missing mirrors. All of your mirrors must be properly mounted and secured to the door. The exception to that is if you've got fender mirrors. Those are not DOT required. Door mirrors are DOT required, non-negotiable. Muffler must be present, cannot be leaking, cannot be rusted out. Same is true with your exhaust. You cannot have rust holes in your exhaust, it can't be leaking, must all be present. Oil pressure should be running about 40 psi, roughly, with the truck idling. Obviously, when you're pulling a load up a grade, it's going to go up from there. Usually about 50, 55, kind of depends on the motor. Radiator. Again, this goes back to nothing cracked, bent, broken, leaking, missing. You don't say. I've already covered the differentials. When you're driving down the road, making sure there's nothing grinding, nothing loose, nothing wobbly. Making sure there's no leaks. That's what you're inspecting for. Reflectors. I'm going to have to get out of the truck for this. And don't mind him. He's just been being a noisy busybody today, playing with his bone. I love the fact that I turned the camera on him and he freezes. So, when it comes to reflectors, you must have reflectors on both sides of the mud flap brackets. And there must be the reflective strip at the top of the truck on both sides. Walking down the trailer, these strips you see here cannot be any more than 6 feet apart. There is an allowance for some missing, but you must have at least 50% along the length of the trailer. Getting to the back of the trailer, same is true. Cannot have any less than 50% covering the width of the trailer on either the DOT bar, which is also known as the ICC bar or the Mansfield bar, or the doors. And you must have reflective strips on the top. You must have the red box and 3 triangles, minimum. You can also have road flares or a more common replacement is an LED flare. But you must have the 3 triangles and your fire extinguisher. Steering cannot have more than 10 degrees of play from side to side. A number of times I see guys who let their steering get loose. It's asinine. That's where your ball joints come in. That's where your steering linkage comes in. That's a matter of maintenance. But no more 10 degrees from side to side. Suspension, and I've covered a lot of this in my general walk around. This goes back to nothing cracked, bent, broken, leaking, missing, loose. Check and make sure all your springs are present. All your airbags cannot be cut, bulging, dry rotted. No signs of damage. Everything must be operational. Like I've said before, your pre-trip gets redundant. This is why I keep repeating that mantra. Bumper to bumper, side to side, it is just redundant. Over and over, that mantra. Tire chains. During the winter, you must have either chains, cables, or tire socks on board at all times from September 30th through May 1st. There are a lot of companies that they just have a chain rack, and you always have chains on the truck. You've seen mine sitting over here on the passenger side. I always have a full set of chains. Now, a full set of chains is 4 for your drives and 2 drags. That's 1 for each side of your trailer. Usually that'll be, say, your passenger front set and your driver's rear. You never put chains on the same axle for the trailer. It's always diagonal. So whether you do driver front, passenger rear, or passenger front, driver rear, that's how drags work. Drives must have a full set on all 4 drives. So it's 6 sets of chains. Me personally, if it's bad enough where I have to think about throwing chains, I ain't driving. Just plain and simple. I don't feel like getting out there, getting wet, getting cold, just to throw 400 pounds worth of iron and do nothing more than 30 miles an hour for however long it takes me to get out of the spot. In an emergency situation, I'll do it. I have done it, but at the end of the day, you're not getting anywhere quick, and the risks behind it just aren't worth it. Tires. Again, I covered this in my general walk around. Dry rot is a problem. That's a blowout waiting to happen. Tread depth. 4 30-seconds on steers, 2 30-seconds on drives and tandems. Which is the whole reason I'm sitting here waiting for roadside. Because I have 2 tires that have scrubbed themselves bald in the hour and 15 minutes since I did my pre-trip this morning. Wheels and rims, Again, nothing cracked, bent, broken, no loose lugs. I've covered this in my general walk around. Windows must be clean, no cracks, must be operational. You must be able to roll both windows down on the doors. The windshield is allowed as long as the crack is not in line of sight. Okay, that's a key point here. You are allowed a crack up to the size of a quarter. Anything more than that, new windshield. In fact, when I take my truck in for its next service, I'm going to have to get a new windshield because I got a crack on this side. It's not in line of sight, but it's starting to spread. Windshield wipers must be in good condition, must be operational. Now, you've seen it in the winter, it gets gummed up with ice. It's a pain in the rear, but you got to keep them clean, you got to keep them operational. When you get to your dollies, all of your coupling devices must be in good order. Nothing cracked, bent, broken. Again, I'm going to continue to repeat that mantra. Your landing gear, I mean, yeah, nothing cracked, bent, broken, missing. All of your lights, your reflectors. This is where you start getting into your interior, looking at the roof. You cannot have any holes. You cannot have any light shining through in the roof or along any of your door seams. When it comes to cargo containment, that trailer must be watertight. You cannot have water incursion on the freight. That is DOT regulation. Suspension, again, repetitive. Whether it's spring ride, air ride, whatever, nothing cracked, bent, broken, missing, bulged, cut, blah, blah, blah. If you're running flatbeds, tarps, again, tires, wheels, all of your other stuff, depending on what you're dealing with. I mean, if you're dealing with a tanker, you've got other stuff you've got to deal with. As far as trailer connections, the glad hand seals cannot be weather checked, dry rotted, or cracked. When you hook up your airlines, blue to blue, red to red, your green cord is always your electrical. Sometimes you'll see additional hoses for hydraulics and whatnot. No leaks. All lights must work. That's the rule of thumb when it comes to pre-trip. Bumper to bumper. Memorize that mantra. And the only difficult part you've got to memorize is brake pad thicknesses that are allowed, which I have provided all of the DOT regulations for that. 430 seconds of tread on the steers, 230 seconds on the drives and tandems minimum. Other than that, stick to that mantra. Nothing cracked, bent, broken, missing, loose. And you've got your pre-trip. You do that to bumper every day, do your regular mid-trip walk-arounds. End of the day, do a post-trip, check everything, do it regularly. You'll have no problems. Today, I did my pre-trip. Everything was kosher. Drove at 60 miles down the road. Started hearing a noise coming from the trailer. Stopped here at Deadman's Pass rest area. Sure as shit. Got 2 tires that are flat spotted and bald, and I'm waiting for the repair guy to show up. It happens. This is where I could get into keep your radio turned down. You must be able to hear everything. If your radio is so loud that somebody can hear it from 4 trucks over with the windows closed, it's too damn loud. Your pre-trip doesn't end just because you logged your 15 minutes at the beginning of the day and went through the checklist. It continues while you're driving down the road. Keep your radio turned down. A number of times I see somebody roll into a fuel island and with windows closed, doors closed, 4 or 5 truck lanes away, you could hear their music. It's too loud. Plain and simple. I listen to audiobooks. I almost never listen to music. I make sure that I can hear the truck and road noise over the radio. I can still hear the radio. I can still hear what's being said in my audiobook. Or if I do listen to music, I can still recognize the song. But I can pay attention to traffic and the road noise around me so that I can hear things like the warbling tire that alerted me to I have a tire that's about ready to blow out and 2 tires that have bald spots. Your music's so loud that you can't hear yourself think. You can't hear a horn. You can't hear tires that are getting ready to go. You can't hear mechanical grinding noises. It's all part of the pre-trip. Keep doing it while you're driving down the road. So, I'm going to wrap this up. I've covered the pre-trip. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Throw in a comment. I will answer. Might take me a couple of days depending on my schedule or cell phone service, depending on where I am. But I will answer. In the meantime, drive safe. Catch y'all in the next one.